All right, the last couple things. There's one little thing that's been kind of troubling me since I started this thing, which is that after I pick this photo, I realize that there's two rocks. There's this forward rock and there's this one behind it. So maybe there's a way to separate those out a little bit and get a little more sort of awesome separation between the front and back rock. So that's the one on top, right? Yeah. Yes. And is there one on top of it? Yeah. So that's that one, and then there's this one. So in between those two, I'm going to take Cutty with a big brush here, a big Cutty. And I really want to get into all this stuff on this side, but I don't know how much I'm going to be able to get away with if I want this thing to feel, if I want to keep those focal points in mind. And I'll turn that back on again just so we have an idea. That's what I'm trying to focus on. And I added a little more to that because I was accepting that that was a second focal point, and then this, isn't really a focal. I need to push that back because, like I said, it's not. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. Here, 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 here. Um, Again, tone down that so that it made sure it stayed at number 3. And that little bit of dark right there. There's a reason. I mean, it was based on the photo, but there's a reason. Bam! Just that tiny little bit of dark came right here to just boomerang your eye back over to this picture. I mean, it's subjective a little bit, like how much what I say is happening, because everyone talks theory about their stuff and says these are the truisms, these are the theories about how why this works, and you could just say all the right things. You could say everything awesome that you're supposed to say about art. All your theory could be completely correct, but you just make shitty decisions. But you don't know you do. You think you make good decisions, and so there's no one there to say boo. It just you think you can say the exact same stuff and do shitty art. So it's really not about the theories. It's about the decisions you end up making, and that's a really hard thing to say is good or bad. It's a really hard thing to teach, but I hope my decisions are good. I try. Yeah, this one, I'm going to duplicate this layer, this fog layer. And then I'm going to go Control U on the keyboard on a PC. It's on a Mac. I use PCs, by the way, if you haven't already figured it out. No, my Control M for some reason is not working anymore. I'm going to make this one blue. Reduce the red in it a little bit. I kind of like that I'm getting into some purple fogs back here. And actually, I'm going to stretch that up a little bit. And I'm going to mess around a little bit, erase out, tweak the levels just a little bit, and just try to get that blend to look just right. The fog layers and what you do in this back level is so important. The exact color of it. And I'm actually going to come back to the layer itself, grab some of this blue, and bring in. This is actually slightly more distant. So I'm gonna take some Jamie and just do a slight, give that fog a slight bit of tooth, especially as it gets closer to the horizon here. Some happy little fog. Who's happy little fog, friends? You know who Bob Ross sounds like? He sounds like the guy from Family Guy. What's his name? Bruce. Oh my God. Oh no. Mm-hmm. And let's check in with His Holiness. Uh, he's got all these fogs coming in from all these areas all the time in all of his paintings, but I'm not allowed to look at another one, so I'm only going to look at this one. You notice how these edges blend? Like if this was a sharp edge, but all these soft and sharp edges together are really nice. That little bit of fog that comes out there really does nice to set that back. There's a little bit of fogging here, but it's not quite blending with the ground enough. And I think maybe that what I need, they feel a little bit separated. So I'm going to make another fog layer. And this is insanity. If this seems like insanity to you, to be paying this much attention to these colors and values, that's a good thing, because that means you are not being insane enough and that you need to get with it. in terms of your craziness. Because people would be crazy, would be making art. Psychotic about the little subtleties. Yeah, now that green is not actually there, but I feel like I might need it just to merge those two a tiny bit. I'm going to turn that down a little bit. I'm going to maybe even make it an overlay. Will that work? Will that work? I'm going to duplicate it. Make it a normal. Yeah, first the overlay mode, setting it to overlay mode makes it a little greener. Setting it to normal, I mean, I'm in danger of like not really feeling this distance anymore, or not having it feeling like there's some artificial fog. See, the fine line that you're writing here is you want it to feel like the same time of day. And a lot of concept artists use what I call concept fog to hide all their accuracy of color, because if you just throw a bunch of fog on there, you kind of get out of it a little bit. Yeah, that one was too bright. But see, it's not always a matter of matching the color exactly. Ooh, that one off is actually way better. I'm going to turn that one down. I think it's time, finally, to just go balls out and say, all right, it's overpaint time. It's overpaint time. Now, a lot of you are like, this is how I was always painting. Oh, God. Why are you screwing me here? This is how I was always painting. I was just overpainting the whole thing. But now I will take a pass at the entire thing and say, what are the edges that I want emphasized? What are the edges that I want? Where do I want whatever I want without having to find the layer? Because it's true, all that looking for layers, all those shenanigans can definitely slow you down. So it's nice to have a time where you just go in and say, I'm going to put the stuff wherever I want it to go. Which is the whole holdup with people at the beginning when they're doing this process, is they're like, well, I want to put it on where I want to put it. Well, now is the first time. How many hours into this painting are we? 5 hours maybe? Now is the first time where we get to do that. I'm going to put in that splash, the little Drogo. It's at 30%, bring up the percentage of it a little bit. I don't want to get too much detail here, but I wouldn't mind a little Drogo here to like indicate the speckles a tiny bit. Got to be careful though, because that's going to start drawing attention to itself. Add that frothy, foamy shenanigans wherever I feel like I need it. And this is good because I can just freestyle. I can grab any blues I want. I can put anything wherever I want it. I do what I want. And it's going to be a lot about softening. Yeah. Who knows that the wind isn't kicked up a little bit. Get some of the softness back in here. Now I'm going to erase actually, because I don't want any of those shenanigans touching my crispy wave. Don't touch my crispy wave. I want that color. And while I'm thinking about this layer, I'm having an overall look at the entire thing. That stuff stays away from my wave. Now, that wave being so close to the top of those rocks, that was probably a poor choice from the beginning. That wave would be nicer if it was like a little bit lower. And I just didn't have the balls to change the picture, but I really should have. And I'm not going to now. I'm not going to even try to fix it because I don't feel like it. But it might be worth experimenting with. I'll remember it for next time. All right, so now I'm going to go back to that very top layer that I created. Take my Ned Stark, go to Mixer Brush, and then click on this. This is important. Sample all layers. And what that does is it makes it so that when Ned Stark is selected, or any brush, but as long as it's on Mixer Brush, Sample all layers is on. When I blend, it blends with all the layers that are underneath. It like picks up the color from every layer that you see, that's visible. If you don't do that, my brush is blue, so it doesn't know what to mix with because it's only mixing on this empty layer. You know what I mean? But if you click Sample All Layers, it recognizes what's underneath. So you got to recognize. So I'm looking at the painting far away and saying, what are the areas I want to push back? And the areas that I want to push back, again, this is my fourth read, so I can push that back a little bit. And you see what I'm doing? It's ever so slight. It's just a little bit of a blending of the edges. Click off on the here. Make that brush smaller if you want to notice it less. And just softening the things that maybe are a little bit too crisp. And what I'm doing is I'm saying, where do I want my eye to go? And what do I want to leave crisp? And what is distracting because it's too crisp, and what could use a little bit of a touching up of that edge? And because that's my first read up there, I want to get rid of the things maybe that will interfere with that first read. And to give me a little more variety of edges. Now this you can use while you're painting. This is a really methodical sort of way to do it, where you like only apply this at the end. I mean, I think you could be working, if you were painting more in a different technique that was a little more painterly and less graphic designy, less methodical, then you would bring this thing out the whole time. But I kind of save it here for the end to get rid of the edges that I think are too sharp. And you can actually get away with a lot more, especially if it's subtle, blending than you think you can. Like a little bit of down here, because it's reflected in the water, would be kind of nice. And because that edge doesn't need to be that sharp. I mean, you don't want to get carried away, but especially here, because I don't want my eye to go to the edge of the picture. So I might be okay with that, and then maybe one right there. But not so much that I, destroy all my hard work creating and loving on all these beautiful textures. We're trying to make them beautiful. I don't want to suddenly go in and like lambast them, but like maybe that can go away. Maybe that can go away. Just to say, hey, that's not the point of this picture. I'm trying to keep it on the parts that are, especially as this rock turns the form here. Gets rid of all that crispness that I have in the design of the edges. It's not that dramatic, but you'll see right now when I turn it off and turn it on, it just softens everything. It just makes the whole thing easier on your eyes. Because the edges aren't as sharp and they aren't as graphic. So like, I'm not going to go in and blur everything, but just some of these edges, because that's kind of what's happening. I mean, these waves are coming up and they're blending into each other in certain places. And certain places they're crisp. Generally, I like to err on the side of making everything too sharp and then going in and making it soft at the end. But not the other way around, because that you can't fix. When everything's too mushy, it just shows a shittiness and a lack of confidence in your painting that you can't come back from. But if you do it this way. Now, something I want to try is, I had all that crazy underpainting that I did initially, but I'm going to try making another layer and then saying apply image. And what that does is it takes everything that's in the previous layers and kind of throws it on top, adds it right here on this top layer. I'm going to put another layer underneath it, turn that off, and I'm just going to fill it in with some oranges and reds, just because this picture is generally blue. Now, this is something a lot of times people do like right at the beginning of a painting, where they just kind of make, definitely in real painting, you have to do it at the beginning. But I'm just going to do it after the fact. I'm going to take that, the scatter, turn it up, take my angle jitter. I'm going to take the color dynamics, click on color dynamics, turn the hue jitter, brightness jitter up. Back to Cal, hue jitter all the way up. Oh yeah, let's get crazy. And just get a general medley of warmth. I'm going to keep on painting here. Adjust the levels a little bit, get those colors a little more vivid. And just kind of mush it around. Okay, and now I'm going to paint that over, and I'm going to do a color, I'm going to do a layer mask on that, and I'm just going to see what happens if I start bringing in especially around the edges and around the bottom, some of that color underneath. And then I'll start painting in, erasing out. Might use the leaf brush, change the opacity a little bit, make brushes a little bit lighter, a little bit darker. In and out with Khal Drogo. And I'm just trying to like get a sense of that orange kind of creeping in on the edges, but without having it be overpowering. You don't want to see orange everywhere. You just want to get a kind of a subtle flavor for it. Yeah, the thought here is to just get some of these oranges back in the picture. Some of these warms, just to peek them out. And again, I'm on a layer mask on a separate layer, so it's nothing huge. If I want to just bring my eye here a little bit, it's not a big difference. But it's a nice little subtle pass. It can be nice. Yeah, it's almost in lieu of doing an underpainting, of having done an underpainting. Well, I did it individually for the layers, but I didn't really. And is there a couple little other glints I can do to the top of that? I think all it needs, maybe, is I'm going to add another layer and just that little bit of lighter texture right there, 30%. Made it 61. Just that. Say, okay, that rock right there gets a tiny bit more texture than all the surrounding rocks. One more stroke of love. Even that one extra stroke of love, I think, can really help to sell it. Does that one get it? No, just that one. Cool. All right, so now I'm almost done. What I do is I take the whole thing again, I apply image, I make a new layer again, and I say apply image. And I select all, copy it. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to grab a rectangular marquee around this thing. Because now the whole thing is flattened and merged. Copy that, make a new layer, new file actually. Paste this sucker into a new file. Make the background, I'm going to do Control I to invert it. So now the background is black. And I'm going to do a little bit of a border around it. I really like looking at pictures with a slight black border. Without the black border, they don't really feel like they sit in a frame. And so that now, let's see, what's my image size? I did it at about 2600 pixels wide. Now, thing about images is inches, DPI, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. Because watch this. If I do resample image, I can make it, it's 37 inches by 21 inches. Okay, well now it's 1 inch by 0.5 inches. What changes? Nothing. It's exactly the same. Why is that? Because the DPI went to 2673. So the resolution is the pixels per inch, right? Right? So all you care about is the pixels. You don't care about the pixels per inch because we're never printing this out. If you print it out, then you care about the pixels per inch. But for now, know that about a 3000 wide pixel file is what the resolution you want to work. About 3000, they call 3K or 4K wide is what you want to work out. DPI per inch, it doesn't matter per inch because we don't care about inches because we're never printing it. Like I said, you could change once you turn resample off and everything's affecting everything. Okay, what if I made it 2 DPI? Okay, now it's 2 DPI and it's 1300 inches wide, right? It doesn't matter. So you want a 300? Okay, it's 300. Well, now if you want to print it, you got an idea that it's 9 by 5 out of 300 DPI, but I think 200 is fine for printing 13 by 7. But anyway, so I'm just letting you know that DPI doesn't matter. All that matters is the amount of pixels that it is. And 3,000 pixels wide is pretty darn high res. 4,500 is really, really high. 1280 will get you sorted. Something I like to do before I make it change the size is I'll make another layer on top, turn that into a multiply layer, and take some Big Cutty, select a dark color, maybe a dark, rich, warm color. No, maybe a dark blue color. Yes. I'm changing the color as I go. But basically what I'm doing is I'm adding a little bit of a soft glow around the image. So that your eye kind of ever so slightly, ever so subtly stays in the middle of the picture. It's just the biggest, softest gradients. Now another thing I'll do is I'm going to duplicate the layer. And in the layer, I'm going to take color dodge, and I have to paint on it, so that's why I made a duplicate, so I don't mess it up in case I don't like what I did. And that's too bright, but like maybe at 17%. Just doing one diagonal swipe. You know, when as I do color dodge, it starts to lose detail, so I want to be careful not to allow it to lose any detail. I just want to add a little bit of the brightness to make it feel like, hey, this is a bright-ass day. Another thing I like to do is duplicate the layer, or not duplicate it, make another layer, take a 50% gray, which you can see here it's 50%. Do that, and then go to Filter, Filter Gallery, let me bring it over here. Filter Gallery, and then I set it to Grain, Intensity 40, Contrast 50, that's fine, good enough. And I set that to Overlay. And what it does is it adds this overlay texture to it. Make sure the layer mode is set to overlay. And it adds this like kind of lots of individual colored pixels. If I do it to normal, you can see what it's doing. All these individual colored pixels. This we stole from Mache's files, going through his layers and finding out what the hell he was doing to make it look photographic. Because then it makes it look photographic. Because if you pull up any picture and you zoom in on it, you'll notice it's made of RGB. So you do that in a subtle way, and then for some reason the picture looks more like a photo. And I'm turning it down. I'm not going to keep it 100%. 100% is too egregious. But like maybe like that, and you see the difference. It just adds a level of kind of grainy richness that is kind of nice. Now, another thing that I do is because you're never going to show the picture at this resolution, you're always going to show it a little bit smaller. So another thing I'll do is I'll save out a version of it at this size, and I will call it Ocean Shot Edit, because it's not the original, and I want to know it's just my edit file. And then I will make the whole thing, the whole image, I'm going to resample. Not quite that big, because it's never going to be that big, but let's just say I took it to, I don't know, let's say 1600. It tightens the whole thing up. And what that allows me to do, and remember, I put this grain mask on before because I like having a tight little grain too. So I'm going to do that. Do another apply image, made a new layer, but I applied the image with the grain layer turned off because I don't want the grain, I don't want it giving me a new image with the grain into it. All right, turn the grain back on just so we can have a look at it. And then this layer I'm going to duplicate so I can mess around with one without messing it up. And I'm going to go here to sharpen. I'm going to sharpen it. Now everything got kind of like a sharpen pass on it, which is cool because I'm going to mainly show or post or set up this image at that Christmas. And you can see when I turn it off, the difference. Off, on, off, on. It's a lot kind of just juicier and crisper. And what I might do now is I'll put a layer mask on that, and I'll paint with black to erase the sharpen. And the places I'm going to erase the sharpen are going to be like kind of around the edges, or the areas where I don't want to draw the eye as much. So I have it at 84. Let's go a little bit higher. I'm painting with black on a layer mask. And what I'm kind of doing is I'm going to erase the sharpen in most places except for those two focal points, especially that wave. And it's not going to blur it, it's just going to be like, oh, it's weird how that wave suddenly pops out a little bit more. Like from that to that, you're like, whoa. It just goes whoosing. And it helps when you do the sharpen to make the image a little bit smaller first. Now, up here, maybe it's a little bit too sharp. Even little things like this, man, do they make a difference in terms of pointing your eye to what you want to point it to. So I decided that wave is what I want to mainly point to. This one's my second one. I'm going to go 40% and just give it a little bit more fuzz. And definitely out here around the edges, I don't want to. And if I want to bring back some sharpness, I go into some white here, bring it back. I bring it to 100%, watch. Bam, it's suddenly like just that much, a little bit crisper. So I got my first read, second read. Oh, I'll bring it here. Oh, third read maybe needs a little sharpen. I'm doing 30%, I hit 3. Bring a tiny bit of sharpen back there. And the last one, that can stay fuzzy. In fact, I'm going to keep that whole, I'm going to keep all the sharpen out of that area right there. I mean, even your signature, you got to make sure that it kind of fits into there. I'm going to try a color like, it's always sometimes hard to get a, You like this tutorial about how to sign your name? Listen, everything is a thing. If it's on the picture, I'm doing versions of it. And I also think, sign your name so that you can actually read the damn name. It's so ridiculous. Sometimes I see awesome concepts, and I want to know who did it. And the damn signature is some scribble that you can't read. What the fuck's the point of that? Now you have someone who wants to know who you are so they can get you to do work, and your signature is illegible. It's the stupidest thing imaginable. Put your name on your stuff, guys. And if you need to spend a half an hour sitting at home right now being like, yeah, I'm going to watch him paint his Y. I need people to know that it's a Y, not a G. I guess the name below would help. Okay. All right, this is enough. Right? This is enough. Well, see, now I'm self-conscious and I can't do this Y anymore. I'm about to grab my signature from another file. Okay, there we go. And I'll duplicate it on top of itself usually because the pen isn't girthy enough, just to get it like a little more, to merge it down. You're like, are you going to add clipping masks and start? Yeah, I'm going to start adding clipping masks to it. I'm going to make it on the small side. And the thing I like to do with my name is I'm going to just try to, maybe I'll put it on the opposite side. No, it needs to go on the bottom, on this side. I will invert it. Actually, that's not bad. But I kind of don't want it in the picture, you know? I don't want it blocking anything. But whatever. I mean, it's nice if your picture makes room for it. Like that little frothy wave has like an area for it. I mean, your signature is part of the picture, so let me see if I can make it, what color is going to be the best for it. Believe it or not, because everyone who's doing work on a professional level is partly extremely insane, I will try some different colors. Looks like I just scribbled it on there, but I will try some colors. I will go in here to the curves. Get in there. Maybe it needs to be a little more yellow to sit in. No, it was good the way it was. Yeah, I think that's it. Let me see. I think that wave steals the show away from the rock, now that I'm looking at it. But I don't know if I hate it. I think it's fine. Looking at it in this mode, I think the bit of orange that comes in here makes it look like someone pooed in the water, or some kid just did some diarrhea in the water and then walked out. So I'm going to take another layer, go underneath here, and do some last minute patching. Now the only unfortunate thing now is on a mistake I see now is that it's on the 1200. It's on the smaller version. So now if someone asks me for the high-res version, it's going to have diarrhea. Have diarrhea water. Only this one's not going to have diarrhea water. Only this one. Yeah, because I darkened around the rims too. Okay, that's good. Let's see again. Yeah, see that bit of orange and the glows? You see how they kind of add just a tiny bit of flavor and texture to the whole thing? And how once we laid in the groundwork, that was the 90% of it. And then how some of these blurred edges in the end, like they really do a lot to like take your eye and just be like, whoosing! And then right here, all of a sudden all that loose brushwork starts to feel really good. Even that little bit of orange in there, I think is kind of nice to mix up with all that green. It kind of vibrates it a little bit. Still not sure that these two rocks on top of each other is great. I wanted to separate them more. I might mess around with that a little bit more, but overall, here we are. And thanks a lot, guys, for watching through this series. I hope you got a lot out of it. One of the most important things, I think, is to not hoard your secrets. Always the classes that are the best are the ones where everybody's working together. Everybody's helping everybody. Because really, I think it's your peers that you can learn the most from. I mean, a teacher can tell you a couple things, and you can get like a tidbit here and there, but it's really from the people that are around you that are struggling the same struggle you are, where you can tell them something, they can tell you something, and you both can benefit hugely from it. So always keep that in mind. And also, if you see something that I don't know, feel free to email me. I mean, I would love to talk to you if you have thoughts, if you have a better way of doing something, pass it along. I'm always interested, and I'm always trying to learn new things too. So keep that spirit alive when you're doing art. That sharing ideas spirit, because I think that's what makes everybody kick a lot more butt. All right, and next week we're going to be done with this painting. We're going to start doing some other stuff. Anywho, thanks a lot for listening, and we'll see you next week.